Hi everyone, it's Peter Zalams, Griniflix Adventure 8, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about internet and broadband. It's doing photography means you're moving data everywhere. What's the most common question? My internet doesn't work. The internet doesn't work. How do you work out what's actually going on? Is it the service provider? Is it the Wi-Fi connection that you've got within your house or whatever? So the first tool that you need is some sort of an app that's going to measure the internet speed. So I'm just using a thing called speedtest.org. The link will be in the description here. And it's just a matter of pressing the button there. And then it does a speed test and it's showing around, it seems to be varying a bit. Look at that, it's going all over the place. I find that sometimes you have to do a couple of tests just to get a consistent reading. But I am just experiencing a dilemma that I'm sometimes facing quite often with the NBN here, in particular in Australia, around inconsistency in speed. So okay, what's interesting about this is that I'm paying for a 50 megabit per second download and about a 20 megabit per second upload. But you can see the numbers I got there. I got 6 for download and 17 for upload. So just do another test on that. And let's see what the next test comes in at. This time we're running at about 26. 29, thereabouts, 27, and alright, so that's about 15, 16. So for this location, that's the best I can expect. The NBN in Australia, National Broadband Network in Australia, is fibre optic, but it's not fibre optic to your house or factory necessarily. In some cases it is, in which case you get the full service that actually you pay for. But if it has to go from the optical cable into copper and then to your computer or to your environment, well then things change. Let me explain that on a piece of paper and then I'll come back to here. Here's my house and the area we're talking about is McMaster's Beach, but I suspect that this might be true for any remote area that is connected to the NBN for internet services via telephone lines, copper, and the distance between the copper and then the fibre optic line. So the fibre optic line for NBN is really fast. So for example, if you've subscribe to a 50 megabit per second download, then via the optical cable, if you were connected directly to that point with your house, then you would probably get 50 megabit per second download at your house. But when it goes via the copper lines, there could be a number of connections at different points between the optical line, the copper connection, before it gets to your house. Now, what I've been experiencing is that when those connections are good, I'm getting about 25 megabits per second download and around 7 megabits per second upload. What I found out is that if any of these connections are not so good and the resistance increases across those connections in some way, or resistance increases in the copper wire, then NBN, this is NBN, their software does a calculation or does something and will automatically switch down the service to the lowest amount. So it goes from 50 down to 5 megabits per second, which then eventually gets over here, and this gets reduced back down to 3 to 5 megabits per second. And the upload also gets taken down to about 0.3 to 0.5 megabits per second upload. Now, the bad thing about this is that when this occurs automatically because of the resistance, you keep on getting charged for the higher amount. The software, NBN software, will trigger the download speed and the upload speed to reduce, but you get charged the full amount. They won't adjust your charging amount when the service is reduced because of these copper lines. Is that fair? Is this what you're experiencing? Now, for the McMaster's Beach area, I found out that the distance between my house and the first optical connection is something like 900 meters, almost 1 kilometer away. From there, across all these copper lines and connections to there. And in my case, there's about 5 switches or connections that it has to go through. So if any one of these switches builds up resistance, then NBN will automatically reduce the speed and the upload speed by a factor of 10 for what I'm paying at the higher amount, and I only get the low amount even though I'm getting charged the high amount. Is that fair? Are you experiencing that? I'd like to get your comments. Let's see whether we can get this resolved, not just for myself but for anybody else. If software can automatically reduce that, why can't the software automatically adjust the account when the service is actually being reduced as well? We're also reliant on the internet these days, and therefore, one of the things I first do when I go anywhere is I check the speed of the internet. If I know the speed, either upload or download or both, then I at least set the expectations to myself as far as what's going on. I guess the gripe that I have with TPG is that the software, whenever there is resistance in the copper wires, the software at the server or whatever reduces the speed automatically to the lowest level, even though you're being charged at a higher level if that's what you actually have paid for. What's the answer to that question? Well, change providers so that you avoid the copper. It might be via satellite or whatever. GSM SIM cards seem to work quite well in some locations. I know in my case in McMaster's Beach, even that doesn't necessarily work very well. I guess the dilemma we all face is trying to work out how to get good internet service. In summary, what should TPG do? Maybe they should link their software to, if they do cut down your service, your level of speed automatically because there is resistance in the connections or the copper wire, that somehow that's linked back to their billing system so you get charged at the lower rate rather than at the high rate, even though they're providing a lower level of service automatically because of technical issues. Anyway, look, are you experiencing this with your service provider, and particularly if you've got copper connections to optical connection? It'd be interesting to see whether it's just an isolated issue for me where I am at McMaster's Beach, where there's a long copper line between up to 1 kilometre between my location and the first fibre optic connection. Anyway, there you go. I hope that's been useful for you. Welcome your comments, like, and we'll see you on the next video. Cheers.